So when we're thinking about this, Drew, a lot of people are saying, all right, that makes perfect sense for somebody who's currently employed, but I just got laid off.
Hmm.
And I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to pivot. I ain't quite sure what I'm pivoting from, where I'm pivoting to. I was just about to get
Yeah.
this promotion, or I just got a promotion. And because of that, I was easily, particularly folks coming out of government. What are
Yep.
some of the strategies that they may want to consider right now that they haven't already?
Yeah, I think one, you got to identify what your skills are. That's number one. And then number two, I think you got to look and see where your gaps are. Know what your gaps are. Highlight your skills on your resume, and then I think you got to engage your network, right? This is what I've said to folks who are in government is that you got to go where the growth is. There's a couple of industries that are consistent that have consistently hired people who are formerly in government. That's manufacturing, education, healthcare, and professional services. Now, healthcare and education are hiring at pre-pandemic rates. So I think where you got to start to do is start to do your research on what industries are hiring. I would also say if you're a government worker that there are states and municipalities who are also hiring, but it may mean that you may have to reimagine your geography. You got to figure out what your non-negotiables are. If your non-negotiable is I have to stay in my current geography, then think, okay, well, then maybe a state or a municipality might not work. But let me look at these other industries and start to look at what industries are hiring and what are some of those sort of what I would call administration and economy agnostic, right? So
Huh.
you're going to start to see people saying, okay, well, of course, healthcare is always hiring. Education is oftentimes hiring. But what are some of those other industries, right? Think about your skills being highly transferable. And if I say this, Lurie, and I really want the audience to hear this, is that a layoff is not indicative of your skills or your value.
That's
A
right.
layoff is indicative of what's going on in the life of that company and that organization in this moment. Your skills, your education, your experience, your EQ, your intelligence are all extremely valuable. They are just as valuable today as they were the day before, the day that you got that pink slip. And so take a moment, take it in, but don't let it shake you and don't let it break you because there are other opportunities out there and your next opportunity may be far times better. It may put you on a path that of success that you had not imagined. I
That's right.
will say, as somebody who has been laid off from a
Mhm.
job where I was working my ass off and
Mhm.
producing
Mhm.
incredible results,
Yeah.
I got that layoff as a function of what was going on in the life of that company at that moment.
Right.
And did it hurt? Yes. Was I disillusioned because I had been working? I've been working since I was 16 when I got my pink slip, right? And it was tough. And I had to think about what does this mean? I had to plan my life, but you can rebound from it.
That's
My
right.
next job after that was a job that was amazing stepping stone for me. It
Wow.
was not my dream job.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
what I want to say to people if you have been laid off is that your next job may be your pivot job. It
Yeah.
may not be your dream job, but it may set you on the path towards that job that it may be a bridge job. It may set you on that path towards your dream job or your dream career.
Right.
And don't feel like and I think that we have to not feel like put all of the ego and shame on what job we take afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
negotiate, aim high, do all of the things. But there will be some of us who take on bridge jobs.
Mm.
Bridges that get you over,
Mm.
that get you over the hump of paying my mortgage or paying this
Yes.
tuition that I have to
Yes.
do. And then you get in that role, not on a humbug, but say, what is possible in this?
Right. I'll be honest with you, Drew. I have been laid off once. It was, and I also worked my ass off, learned a
Hmm.
lot, contributed a lot,
Hmm.
and it was a great company. And it just so happened that there were things happening in the company on other coasts that I was not in
Yes.
not even in the coast of the office that I was in. We was on a completely
Yeah.
different side of the country, and it got impacted and felt really like you motherfuckers. Like,
Yeah.
how dare you?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? But what came after, I would not have considered what came after had I not been laid off. But
Yep.
had I not taken what came after, I might not be sitting and having this conversation with you right now.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just,
Lurie.
y'all, if you can take nothing else from what me and Drew were talking about, when it happens, if it happens to you, it don't feel good. It does feel like your worth is being questioned. And particularly if you're one of the only ones of your demographic in that space, oh, now you just
Yeah.
think all the ones in my demographic and you worry about how people might be talking about you at the office
Yeah.
that you left. Worry about how people are talking about you now that they notice you've been home. Oh, the neighbor's like, boy,
Yeah.
girl, you still home. You usually at work. So
Right.
all of that comes into play. But had it not happened, and had I not taken my pivot position that came after, I don't know where I would be, but I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to trust the process, trust your ability to pivot, and trust your ability to rebound, and trust the ancestors.
Yeah. Trust it, because here's what I know for sure about my situation was that my grandmother used to say it all the time. She was like, baby, God gonna use all kind of people to bless you. People that like you, people that hate you, people that don't even know you
That's
for
right.
real, right?
That's right.
And I do believe that God will use all types of situations to bless you for the long term. Is that you is to when people would say just keep on living, I would say like sometimes that bridge job or that pivot job is an opportunity for you to gain skills that you would have never done for a stretch, right? You would have never asked for another assignment because you were already doing all of the things that you're currently doing so well and so successful. So you're like, what do I need to stretch for and learn a new skill or learn a new industry, right? But what can come out of those opportunities, be really mindful about if I'm going to be here for this time, I'm going to grow while I'm planted, right? And so I'm going to get some new skills. I'm going to learn this industry. I'm going to expand my network to people that maybe I didn't have relationships with. I would
Mm.
say to people who are also in the job market too is that one of the things that I would say for particularly people from underrepresented groups, given all of the things that are happening, is that start to also figure out what questions you're going to ask in the interview process.
Come
Some of
on.
the culture cues that you may need. Now,
Mm.
you might not want to walk in the door and say, "What's y'all's plan for diversity and inclusion?"
Right. That
Right?
might not be the one to ask.
That might not be the question that you ask black folks, but I will say one of the things that you can that I think is a great one is, hi, I mean, well, hey, I'm curious about how to build relationships, or how I would start building relationships once I get inside the organization. Are there employee resource groups? And if they say yes, I think that that's a potentially good indicator, right? I think before you and while you're doing your research, look and see, are there any people who look like you still in management? And that's not just the diversity person, because usually if the only person of color or the only woman is the diversity person, then that means the company usually has a diversity problem. But I think looking at other leaders who may look like you or things like that, I think it's going to be also really important for us to start practicing that thick community that we talk about, that doing a little bit extra piece of it. There, we should be doing a little bit of research about companies and saying, let me find
Yes.
somebody who used to work there, who looks like me, or who has a shared lived experience that I have, and ask them, what was it like to work there? You are going to need, without some of the previously dependent upon culture cues, you're going to need that. I would say this, no matter what your one of the things that I have found is very helpful for some people is when you're in the interview process, ask to see what the healthcare policy is, right? Or what the healthcare
Oh,
options are, right? Because one of the things that if they have gender affirming care still,
huh.
you may be crystal clear in your gender journey, right? Never had a
Huh.
question about it. But being able to look at the healthcare plans and the healthcare policies, if they still have policies like that, that may be a good indicator that they have held on to a lot of the other inclusive policies at the company. You're
Mm.
going to have to look a little bit under the covers for some of those culture cues
Yeah.
that I think are going to be important. So start to think about how you can ask questions about the culture and how you can use other ways to understand what the environment is that you're going to be in. Because listen, I've been in situations where I have been in the interview process. I've asked other people, what's it like for Black folks over there? Right. And
Right.
they said, it's tricky. And look, and I still took that job, right? And
But
said,
you
but
knew,
at
at
least
least
I
you
knew
knew.
what I was going into.
Right. Right. Mm.
Even just knowing sometimes or having some ideas about what the opportunities, you can still make the decision to say, okay, I'm willing to go in and trick around, right? But if it's tricky, you know, I got some tricks too, right? I'm gonna
Right.
figure it out. That may be your decision based on what it is, but at least you go in with better information,
That's right.
right? And
That's
I
right.
want us to be as strategic as possible. That's
Mm.
my goal in all
Yeah.
of this is understanding what skills are in demand. Your human skills really matter, and they're going to matter now more than ever because people have figured out what the machines can do, right? We
Mm.
know what AI can do. What companies are now trying to figure out is how do I make sure that because the future of work is still human, I don't care what anybody says. How
Right.
do I figure out how to hire people who will have this EQ that will be able to get stuff done with the tools that we are creating to help them. And then the second part of that is I want people to know what the skills are. I want people to start to think strategically about how you search for a job and then how you research the companies and how you interrogate the narrative of what you're getting ready to go into because I feel like a lot of these organizations will be tricky. We are in the messy middle still of how companies are thinking about the employee experience.
Right. Drew said, if it's tricky, I got tricks too. And these tricks ain't for kids. We
Hey,
need to
for
know what
kids.
these tricks ain't for kids. Drew McCaskill, this is the sort of information that people need regularly on tap. And we only
Yep.
get your goodness, maybe once a month. If they're trying to figure out like how to follow up, how to say,
Yep.
oh, Drew said this, that, where should they go? Is this written down somewhere? How can
Yeah.
they get
So
this information?
I have a monthly newsletter which actually ends up being every 2 weeks, just about it, called The Black Guy in Marketing. It's not just about being black or being in marketing. It's about navigating work and finding work, and doing so being crystal clear about the fact that identity plays a role in our work lives, just like it does in our personal lives.
Mm.
And you can follow that newsletter on LinkedIn. It's The Black Guy in Marketing. Andrew McCaskill on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. I don't really mess with X like that much anymore, but I'm about to jump into Nubia, and I'm excited about that.
Oh, you
Um,
about to be a Nubia?
yeah.
Oh,
Lurie, I got
Nubians.
one last thing I want to
Yes,
share. I know we're getting
yes, yes,
close to
yes.
the top of the hour. The other thing is gratitude and enthusiasm goes a long way in these interviews. Like people
Mm,
want to know that you want this job, not just a job. So
right.
feel free to show your enthusiasm about it. Be prompt, say thank you. The thank you note is not about thanking that person necessarily for the opportunity. It is about that, but it's also about one last opportunity to say, I want this job. Here's why I will be good at it, to sort of revisit your skills and why you're a great choice for it. Use every interaction as a way to sell you on that job, not just a
Mm.
job.
I love it. I'm also seeing one of the Nubians says, I keep a brag file. I write down my accomplishments and I have a list of questions that most interviewers asked and I practice my answers. We can do this, y'all. We
Yep.
got the skills, we got the ability, and we got the tricks. We need to throw
Yeah.
them out on the table. We got it. We can do it. And follow Drew McCaskill. You are so dope, brother. I just appreciate you being
I
awesome and
appreciate
being in
you.
this world. And just coming on the show. At least we get you monthly, Drew. That's all I can say. But you finna be with the Nubians.
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure you go to LDF show so you can be in the show chat. Although I
I
know
will.
your job be listening. Not that he would ever be on the job and show chat. But I'm just saying, be there because that's where the cool
I got
people.
to keep my finger on the pulse.
That's right.
I
You
love
got to
it.
know what's happening. Got to know what's happening. Drew McCaskill, we love you, friend.
I love you, Lurie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.